a divine assignment. It helps parents call themselves into a deeper space of love. It's easy. People may say, I ain't got kids yet, but it's easy to say, okay, man, my kid came out healthy. They get 10 toes, their heart is all good, and they go this path as what they see society to do. But it's a whole nother game when your child comes out and it's not what you expected. You're like, you have no choice but to say, if you, in all hopes that you're going to some type of spiritual place, whatever that looks like, and say, God, help me to love what I don't know.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Queerly Blax Show. I'm your host, Ashley, and I'm so happy you came by. The Queerly Blax Show aims to normalize the everyday existence of Black, LGBTQIA+ individuals through an interview-style series with regular folks like you and me. So every week, a new guest shares their story and unique perspective on their existence as an LGBTQIA+ individual. Thank you for tuning in, and make sure you subscribe, download, set your reminders to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to another episode of the Queerly Blax Show. I'm your host, Ashley, joined today by a special guest. We got Coach K in the building, Queer on Purpose, spirituality coach. Coach K, tell the people about yourself.
Oh, what's up, folks? What's up? Coach K here. I'm founder, creator of Queer on Purpose, queer spirituality coach. So I help people heal from religious trauma, create a new love story with God, themselves, and community. So just here to help the folks out.
Yes, sir. We're going to get into all of that. But before we get to that, we got to talk about your story. When was the first encounter with your sexuality? When did you know, like, oh, something's going on here? What was that for you?
Well, that happens sporadically, but I would say probably, and we joke about it in the community, like, oh, I knew when I was 5. But really, I think I knew when I was 5. Like when I was playing, Barbie dolls, I would have the 2 girls together, strip the clothes off, like y'all gonna do something, or like you be playing like like house, and I always wanted to be the daddy. I was like, I want to be the daddy. I want to be the daddy. So that was me. But like kind of officially of like, okay, this is something more than just playing house. Kid at that young age, you're just experimenting. You're finding your sexuality. Was around about 14 when I was in high school. I was playing ball. And then I just started like, no, I was like, damn, these girls look good, or just I had an affinity. And I would talk to my other teammates. I'm like, dang, you ever thought about girls? And they're like, you too, me too. So it was just kind of a thing that we were holding inside. We didn't want to tell nobody, but we were just like, there was something there. So that's kind of like when I officially started to kind of really like, I want a girlfriend, or, talking late night on the phone, all that type of stuff. So that's when I, pretty much knew.
Yeah, 14. So high school, basically.
Yeah, high school.
When did you have your first girlfriend?
14.
14. One of the girls you asked on the basketball team?
Yeah. No. I ain't do the dating the teammates. It was just one, and she was actually younger than me, but one of the girls that was kind of like on the volleyball team, I was like, oh, you cute. And you make the little eye contact and you write notes. It was the shorts. It was the shorts. It was the way that she served. I was like, yes, that's what I need. So yeah, we like writing notes. You know how you write notes and you pass back and forth, and it just organically been this thing like, okay, a gaydar went off. Like, I see you, you see me type thing. But like I say, my first official crush was like in 5th grade. Can't say the girl name now, but yeah, that was the crush. But the 14 high school was the official, like, let me go get me a girlfriend.
Yeah, man. So high school. So did you ever date guys?
Yeah. I went through that space, man.
Is this after 14 or before 14?
This was like after 14. So I was in 9th grade. And in part of it, I went to, actually, let's kind of set the context. I went to a Christian high school. So like that was like a no, if you gay, that's against the rules. So because I knew that, I was like, okay, well, I don't want to get kicked out. I'm gonna have to get me a boyfriend or something like that. I was kind of attracted to guys, but not in the sense of like, it was more of because other girls like the guys. So let me go get a boyfriend because that's what you're supposed to do. So I had me a little boyfriend, we went out, bought stuff and all that type of stuff like that. But it just came a point, I think around 17, I was dating this girl and I was just like, yo, I can't lie. Like, he was like, I know it's beyond you being a tomboy. You like girls. And I was like, yeah, I do. And he was like, no, he's still cool. Like, be you, do you. So I did have a little crush. I did try to like, play off, have my weave and all of that type of stuff like that. switched different roles, which in essence, I guess people would consider that being bisexual. But at 17, I knew like, okay, I didn't want to placate anymore. I didn't want to like be trying to dress like quote unquote a girl and leading boys on because of that's what you're supposed to do. And then turn around undercover, dating girls. So like for me, it was just like at that point, I just said like, let me just go this route. This is how I want to present myself as, masculine, and this is who I am. And from then on, like I was like, that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did you come out?
When did I come out?
Or let people in?
I like that. Let people in. I would say, throughout my high school years, people knew. I think it wasn't a said thing. It was just people knew. And you could always be kind of cliche because people always think when you play basketball, majority of the girls are gay.
Mm-hmm.
That's not necessarily true.
Right.
Sometimes it is, but I think people already knew. But when it came down to like my mom and family, that was for me around 18. I was in, first year in college. Like I said, I went to a Christian high school. And next thing you know, someone outed me. So I don't know. Still to this day, my mom won't tell me. I was like, you could hold a secret, lady. So someone told her, hey, your daughter's gay. So she picked me up from one of those weekend trips. The car was dead silent. I knew something was up. She was playing the gospel music real hard in the car. I was like, what the hell? It's just in my spirit. I knew something was up. And then she was just like, are you gay? You didn't tell me this and stuff like this stuff was going on at school and you trying to hide and be who I didn't raise you like that. It was a whole big fiasco. So I didn't necessarily come out to her. I was outed. Now the fun fact, I don't even want to say a fun fact, but I would say during the pandemic, maybe at the kind of like the start of the pandemic, I actually verbally came out to her. She knew, all these years she's known who I am and have grown to have an acceptance. But I never owned that. I never said, this is who I am. So I was like, I'm gay. And she was like, oh, I know that. What are you telling me that for? And that was coming from me just doing my own healing work, like, and just reclaiming my power of, no, someone outed me. I didn't get the opportunity to say, this is who I am. And I just needed more ownership of that. So that's just kind of, officially telling her. My sister I told when I was like around 14, 15, she's been just kind of been like my ride or die person. Like that was kind of one of the only people that I kind of shared, this is who I am. And she was like, all right, let's make sure we hide this from mommy until the time is appropriate. But she was always there for me. So that was probably like the first person that I probably kind of shared this is who I am.
Fully. Like,
Mm-hmm.
which is yeah.
Yeah.
So the journey with your mom, I think a lot of people can relate to that. Like you have that first, somebody outs you, she kind of confronts you about it. You're like, all right, and then the journey from that to you being able to own it and say like, hey, this is who I am. What was that journey for you? Like how long was this? Like what span of time was this?
Jeez Louise. This was a long span of time. So like I said, 18. That's when I was outed, and my mom really didn't start coming around the corner, like really kind of coming to that acceptance like 29 for me. So just like I'm 34 now, so just a couple years ago. She knew, and I didn't waver. Like I stayed in, this is who I am. But our relationship started to tarnish because it became a point, like for many of us, like, do I choose my mom or your parents or your family, or do I choose who I am? So for me, I was choosing who I am. Our closeness started to fall apart. There would be moments where she'll be, okay, I'm good with it. I accept it. But then she would have her own relapse and just start spewing, okay, this is what the Bible say. I didn't raise you like that. I didn't bring a lesbian in the world. You need to talk to the pastor, all those different things. So it really took from 29. And I had a good friend, well, actually a mentor. This is when I had my last relationship. And she was just like, okay, you got to get to a point where you got to accept, if you're with your girlfriend, you got to be who you are. If y'all sitting on the couch, you be romantic, be with your girlfriend, because the more you get comfortable, she has no choice but to accept it. So I was like, damn, because, sometimes you like, oh, that's my friend sitting around on the other side of the couch and you sitting, but you know something's going on. So I was like, no, I started telling my girlfriend, no, sit by me. And I started putting my hands around and stuff like that. When my mom walked into like the kitchen and saw, like, she was just like, whoa. Like, to me, that's when it shifted for her. Like, this is not a phase. I'm going to have to accept this is who she is. And I'm not only going to have to accept her, but I'm going to have to accept her girlfriend too. So, we have conversations. Actually, we was riding up to Columbia, South Carolina yesterday, and we had a conversation about it. We still, sporadically have a conversation. And I was like, I just want to let you know, as a parent, you never did anything wrong. Because we were just having a dialogue, and she was just like, you have to understand it was hard for me. And I said, yeah, I understand that. And I give grace to that. But I want to let you know there's nothing never happened to me. Like, nobody molested me. Like, you did all that you could do, putting me on all of these quote unquote girly events and things of that nature, but you didn't do anything wrong as a parent. There are just going to be some folks that come into this world that are queer. And she was like, I understand that. So we still, she's come to a great place of acceptance. But it was hard for her. It was very, very challenging for her. She felt like she failed as a parent. We would have arguments. It was challenging. It was to the point, like, I was like, all right, I didn't think my mom would ever come around, but she did.
Did she ever talk about her own process, or like things that she did herself to get comfortable? Because what she believed was rooted in spirituality. Of course, it's rooted in religion. It's the same thing that we, as the queer person, know and hear, but within ourselves, we know, like, I know who I am. I know who I feel like I am. And the God that I love is telling me that this is somehow wrong, or the religion I serve is telling me this is somehow wrong. For her, did she ever talk about like the process that she went through to get comfortable with you, or to get to a place of acceptance of you fully?
Yeah. And this, like I said, this conversation, for us having that conversation in the car, and then we're having a conversation now, was so timely. It was a process for her, because, like I said, this was over 10 years, 10, 11 years that she just was not having it, like, would just sporadically be okay one moment, and then the next moment is like, okay, I thought you was cool with it. She went through those rough moments, but I did, and this is the gift of the pandemic, because you get to have these intimate conversations, and I really got to do like my own work, and was really finding out what was going on with her. And I said, well, how did you come to learn to accept me? And she said, I had to spend time, with her pastor, and her pastor was like, this is your child. You cannot turn your, back on your child. This is who your child is. So she said that helped her, I think, getting that acceptance and validation. Some people are going to need that from a church or a pastor. Helped her say, you know what, I'm going to accept my child. When we were in a conversation yesterday, and I asked her, I said, what helped you come around? She was like, talking to my aunts, like, hey, your child then graduated college, got a degree, got a good job, taking care of you. What more do you want? And I think sometimes that's a frustration for us as queer folks. Like, shit, I'm doing everything. I'm there for you. Maybe other siblings and family members, but you have that one child and then you're going to look at it like, oh goodness, you're queer or trans. No, like, I'm doing as.
What up? It's your host, Ashley, and I'm interrupting this podcast to ask, are you following us? Have you downloaded the podcast? Are you subscribed to us on YouTube? If you're not already, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on all platforms, Queerly Black. I'm going to let y'all get back to the show. Peace.
Doing a lot. So she, with my aunts, they kind of like helped her with that. My sisters, one of my sisters, she has one of her best friends is queer and married. And she was like, hey, mommy, this is who she is. You got to come to acceptance. I think kind of hearing it from different perspectives, helped her. But I think one of the most critical, like the shifting that really shifted her paradigm was when I actually came out to my father. And I'm sorry, I didn't mention, I know we're just having a conversation here and I kind of cap on that earlier, but when I came out to my father and she was just like, no, you can't come out to him. He gonna have a heart attack. He's older, like, you can't do that. And I'm like, shit, I don't want to send my daddy to, die,
right.
Coming out to him.
Right.
But when I did come out to my dad, and my dad said, have a peace of mind, have a peace of heart. You're my baby. I will never turn my back on you. That for me was like bricks lifted off my chest. But I think that shifted her mind, because it was kind of like, damn, I'm the odd one left out, and I accepted my child. What I thought was going to happen, I thought how people were going to, push away my child, they're not.
Mm-hmm.
So it felt like she was the odd one out, and it's like, let me get on the train now. And our relationship has been deeper, more connected. I feel more comfortable. I don't even say like, oh, my friend. No, and I don't even really say my partner. I say my wife, or I'm not married yet, but I'm like, I start speaking like, this is my wife or my girlfriend or whatever. And she affirms me now. She's so supportive now. So I think those things, when people care so much, sometimes parents do. They care so much about what their family gonna say, friends, co-work, whatever that is, because they have this imagination of what their child is gonna be. And then when they start seeing other people accept their child for who they are, they're like, damn, I guess I don't want to be the one to be left out. So I think that kind of shifted her mind and helped her to who she is today.
Yeah, that's so such a big thing. My wife has a very similar story just with her mom. They're really, really close. And that was like a point of kind of compartmentalization for them. But
Yeah.
I think she struggled with the same thing, like just being afraid of what other people would say. And then, I got to a place where my wife was just like, Mom, they all know. They all know. I've talked to all of them about this. Yeah. And then as she kind of saw that like people didn't really care as much, she would kind of be like, okay, like I can kind of
relax.
Yeah, you can, because you do fear like how people are going to look at you. And my mom was quite the opposite. She was kind of like, she was your aunt's like, my mom was like, I mean, you could be a lot of things. I'm not worried about your sexuality. Like that's, but then the end of it is that's between you and God.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she's like, I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to, but whatever he thinks is what'll. Yeah. So that's her passive way of saying like, okay, look, I ain't him. Yeah. Whatever it is what it is. I love you, and you got to deal with that later. If there's any, if he got an issue with that, you deal with it later. But I'm not going to be the one to make you feel no kind of way about it. So at first it was kind of like, okay. But all right, like you could have a lot of dispositions, and I've learned that my grandmother passed away last year, and I learned that my mom talked to my grandma a lot about me, and like things that would go on with me. So I think like my sexuality and like just me being her firstborn and just all the challenges of being a teen mom and raising 3 kids and being married and all the things. She would talk to my grandmother a lot about me. And I learned that later, like, whenever stuff was going on with you, I would talk to your grandmother about you. And like, she would, give me guidance. And it made a lot of sense. Just some of the questions my grandmother asked me over the years. When she told me that, I was like, I started thinking about some of the stuff my grandmother would say unprompted to me. And I'm like, oh, it's because now I know that my mom was talking to her about me. But it was very interesting. Like she would send me, my grandmother, she would send me $25 every month when I was in college for every year, right? But she started sending me notes like articles of like Ellen or like stuff, and I'm like, it was super weird, and I never asked her about it. I just kind of was like, whatever. I'm assuming she knows because I'll present it like this for a long time. My grandma's not stupid. But now I know that like my mom was like talking to her about me, just getting her own like reassurance and comfort about me. And so it's super crazy, just like when you get older and you learn like the struggles of your parents, when that cape comes off of them, because they're superheroes until there's a conflict with your life, and they're like, you're in conflict with them. And then you learn like all the things that they have to process and go through themselves to get to a place where they can like lead you. It's very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, that's a powerful piece. And I think sometimes we shortchange that, and we know, oh, it's our coming out story, or as you called it, calling in. But understanding that before, like, we have to understand, like, people have a perception or idea of what their child is going to be before, like, as they're in the womb, because of just culturally conditioning, imagination. And when that child, whenever that time period of someone comes out, or you start speculating, it's the grief that you have to like, okay, what I thought my child was going to be, or what I envisioned my child is going to be, the wedding and, okay, they're male, but then they transition to be, female, like all of these different things, they have to lay that grief down. And they don't know necessarily sometimes how to communicate with you. And we just, we see the anger, we see the frustration, but it's really the fear, it's really the judgment, it's really the pain, and really displacing a lot of that energy. And it takes time.
Yeah.
It took her, like I said, it took her time. And I'm sure that there's still moments where she still had grief and grace. And I try to reassure her, hey, you didn't do anything. It's all good. This is the assignment that God has put for me, you, all of us.
Yeah, because you start out, you're their baby, like you said, they're, when you come along, they're trying to, lay a foundation for you that is either better, most times better than what they had, and set forth a path that says, okay, well, these are all the things that I struggled with, or that I went through. I was poor, I was this, I was that. I'm going to try to make sure my kid doesn't go without, or whatever those things are. And then I don't think most parents factor in, my child might be gay, especially us, over 30. I'd say, like, this wasn't something that our parents were like, oh, this is like a real possibility, like that they're going to live into this, because we know that people who are older than us are queer too. They have just made a conscious decision to do something different. Right. Yeah. And so I think our generation, millennials, radical millennials, have decided to own all the things. What up? It's your host, Ashley, and I'm interrupting this podcast to ask, are you following us? Have you downloaded the podcast? Are you subscribed to us on YouTube? If you're not already, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on all platforms, Queerly Black. I'm going to let y'all get back to the show. Peace. Right? Yeah. And go through all the processes that are necessary to live 100% authentically. And with that becomes this extreme discord sometimes with our parents, because it's so out of line with what they wanted. My mom was on crack and drugs, and there were so many things that she was like, I want to have two parents in the home because I didn't have it, despite a dysfunctional marriage and all these things. Right? It's just like so many things. And this is, I think, more related to being Black, us being the culture that we are, and having to be perfect and having to have it look a certain way. And then this queer thing comes along and it's like, wait a minute, we didn't sign up for this. A child out of wedlock. All right. Maybe multiple baby daddies, or, you drop out of college and you choose a different route. Okay, we can maneuver that. But this queer thing, whoa. Yeah. That's like a whole nother situation. Yeah. It's crazy, so it's very interesting. I think, where did you find patience, like, with your mom as she went through her own process? Because, you were really close with her and still very close, but what place did you have to go to kind of find that level of patience with her? And then also on the back of that, you can talk about how you formed your own relationship with God, because obviously going through high school and all that, you kind of have, the this is not godly, but then you build a foundation with God on your own. So you can talk about kind of both of those things.
Yeah. I'm loving this conversation. Like the patience piece at the beginning, no, I did not have any patience. And I think for most of us, like, that teenage, that early 20, you're like, man, the world, I'm going to live me. I'm going to be me, So patience wasn't a thing. It wasn't a really virtue that I had focused on, in my early, teens or like 20s, as I was exploring who I was. It actually, patience really came as I would consider it like my spiritual awakening. So for me, that was like my late 20s. And I was just like, okay, I can remember actually being in my living room, and I was just crying because I was just going through a lot of stuff. I was going through depression, anxiety. I just had just all the things going on in my life. And, my sexuality, I felt like it was burdening me. Like 98%, you could look at me and say, okay, she gay, like masculine presented, but internally people don't talk about that, especially even like, I'm sure there's a lot of masculine folks that you present one way, but you are internally dying because you want to maybe have this relationship with God or whatever the case may be. And people may think like, oh, you good. and you're not really good. Like you're struggling. And I would just kind of be in this space, and I was talking to God, and I just broke down, and I was like, I can't, if you know my truth, I can't lie to anyone, and with that whole part led me to kind of coming out to my dad and stuff like that, and having patience. I think patience was like, this is the path that I'm going to go on. Like I had to tell my mom, like, hey, I'm going to be me. I can't live a life where I'm not going to be me. That's my oath to God. When you are ready to have that relationship, when you are ready for us to be the best, mother and daughter relationship that we can conceive together, I'm here. But until then, I'm going to move on and live with my life. So I think that was kind of like an inception of patience, like I can't sit and wait to when you are going to be okay with it. I just had to live my life. And in a sense, I still had hope, like drops of hope. And I also had to surrender. That's the other part too, that makes it hard for us as queer folks, because you want the validation and the acceptance from your parents more than we even want it from society. You want it, because we're built that way. That's why babies cry like that, because they want they need the nurturing. So we want the nurturing from our parents, but I had to let go and surrender that. God, what does it look like if I never get that?
Yeah.
So I had to kind of let that piece go, and then just kind of leave that gap of hope there, and just say, when you soften her heart. So I would be praying for her, not only praying for myself as I go through this journey, because it's uncertain, it's unknown, but also praying that God soften her heart, soften her mind, help her see who I am, aside of what I dress like, aside of what my demeanor comes off as, help her to see that I'm still her baby girl. I'm still I'm a good person inside. So I just had to leave that and surrender that with God, because I'm like, I can't live my life waiting on that. And through that, I just knew, I think, like from the critical pieces, like when I came out to my dad, and my mom was like, why the hell would you do that? Like she was so furious and upset. And she just said some harsh things. I knew that I had anchored down into God, because I said, and I always go back to this quote that Jesus talks about when he was on the cross, and he says, God, forgive them, for they not know what they do. So even though she was spewing what would be considered hate and frustration and fear to me, I had a sense of peace. I was like, I felt good. I was like, God, I'm not worried about that. Like this is who you have me to be. And that right there lets me know that something greater than myself was holding me down. And that spawned the relationship with me and God, like, okay, you can do this. And as she started to see my relationship strengthen, like I have spiritual gifts, I'm a dreamer, like I pray hard. Her relationship with God started to flourish. And I think she, although she may have not kind of called it out, she knows that her spiritual life has been enriched because of her child. So it's kind of like that came with acceptance, that came with patience, that came with hope. And I just knew, like, God, you just don't have me on earth for no reason. There's something deeper in, my relationship with God just continue to deepen and continue to foster over time.
Yeah, that's so big. That's so big. And I know people get frustrated with having to be the bigger person. Like they're like, well, I'm the child. Why do I have to like be the bigger person? But it's like, we're the ones that are looking for the acceptance. If we weren't, then it'd be like, you could just be, juvenile about it and be like, all right, whatever. Like, I ain't worried about you. But we want that authentic acceptance, like, and with that comes patience. It's just like with anything, like you want results, you got to put in essentially the work, right? It's not what everyone wants, it's what you want, and I think understanding that, like, if you're the one that wants the author, because you can do what people consider code switching or whatever, or you can compartmentalize or act like it doesn't exist, or you can do all these things and then you never have to deal with it. You can have your parent and you can have, your life over there. But when you want that 360 and you want the full acceptance, being the bigger person is what comes along with it, and being kind of because for a lot of them, this is the first time that they're seeing it this close. For anyway, right? Like you're their kid. Like there's no one other than their own parents that's closer to them, and so this is the first time that they're seeing it develop, because you're developing, unfold, you figure it out for yourself, and go through all the things to get to a place of like, this is who I am, you know, and then them going through their own reconciliation and figuring out who they are. So, you know, being the bigger person is just a part of that journey of authenticity, you know, and I know people struggle with that, but just kind of is what it is.
I think it's a divine assignment. It helps parents call themselves into a deeper space of love. It's easy. People may say, I ain't got kids yet, but it's easy to say, okay, man, my kid came out healthy. They get 10 toes, their heart is all good, you know, like, and they go this path as what they see society to do. But it's a whole nother game when your child comes out and it's not what you expected. You're like, you have no choice but to say, if you, in all hopes that you're going to some type of spiritual place, whatever that looks like, and say, God, help me to love what I don't know. But and as you mentioned, the familiarity, you're not familiar with this, and it's up in your face. How do you love that? That is unconditional love. That's true love. When you don't have, when you cannot lean on your own human understanding, you have to go to a greater place to say, God, help me to love my child the way you would. You know, that's when the conversation and all that stuff starts.
Yeah. So amazing. That was a great conversation. We could go on about this for a long time.
Yes.
But I definitely want to talk about, so you're a queer spirituality coach. What does that mean?
Yeah. And I kind of started seeing it around. So I'm like, I don't know if necessarily I coined it or I just kind of think words together. I'm sure there's other, you know, I know there's definitely other queer spirituality coaches, and all of us are called to this work. But a queer spirituality coach is a person that is within the community, that is specifically coaching someone that they have a barrier or a challenge. They feel maybe disconnected from their spirituality at this point, and they're trying to help them have a stronger love, healthy relationship with God, or whatever that spirituality looks like for them. So they're just coaching them in that aspect. For some people that may be, I'm working on spiritual awakening or whatever. Specifically for me, is working on the religious trauma. So when we as a community have been raised and say, you know, you're an abomination, you're going to hell. Love the sinner, but hate the sin. When we hear all of those different things, we tend to internalize that. And then we end up not having a relationship with God. We're like, oh, well, if I'm going to go to hell, I'll go to hell in a handbasket so that I can be gay. You know, I know I've said it, many of us have said it before, but is that really what you want? You know, you want something deeper. So let's kind of work together. How do we now, you know, lay that foundation when you have that relationship with God? And now you can have that support beyond people. And what that looks like is now you can thrive in other parts of your life. So it's just helping folks within our community enrich their spiritual life.
Yeah. And I mean, from your perspective, like, how impactful has this been for people getting back to, you know, a place where they can, you know, get that spiritual grounding for themselves? Because I know for me, it's even hard for me to imagine denying that God is real, just because of, aside from being queer, you know, just looking at your life, you're like, this is not human. This isn't us. You know what I mean? Like, very briefly, you know, being born to a teen mom and growing up in, you know, Trenton, New Jersey, and just making it to where I am, and just thinking about moments, I'm like, this is not human. This isn't us. Like, this isn't my mom. This isn't, like, you know, somebody's praying for me, first of all. You know, someone's praying for me, and there are points where it's just like, this is just God, period. You know, they're those, you know, those people that come along, or those conversations, or those mentors, or those random like things that you're like, how did that happen? That's like, and it's so challenging to hear, and to, like, you know that people are really challenged by that. You know, it's hard to know, because it's just like, I'm just like, I just know, like, you know, I just, like, it's all in me. I ain't even got no words. I'm like, it's just God, man. I can't even put it no other way. There's nothing fancy to say other than I know it's God, you know. But talk about that, you know, helping people kind of reach that revelation for themselves, to know, like, you're good.
Man, it's been powerful. It's not one day I wake up and be like, I'm just honored to be a vessel and to do the work. And the way I look at my life is God is, you see skin, you see me, Kay, but God is speaking through me. Even God is right now, like speaking in this conversation.
Yeah.
But I think of it like, and I had a client text me this, well, they sent me a little gift, and I do the work, but I'm not really expecting anything. And they like, hey, I am because you are. She called and said, hey, I was able to come out to my mom. We was working together for like maybe about 5 or 6 months. And it's like, hey, I came out to my mom. I came out to my dad. I had a commencement speech at my graduate. I have this newfound confidence and newfound relationship with God. And all I could say is I receive, and I sit down and I'm like, God, like this is you, and it makes me look at my life in hindsight of all the things that I've been through, challenges that I've been through, questioning God, why am I like this, to the point I get it. Thank you for that. It's a sense of gratitude for me to have gone through the pain and to the struggle, and to have moments of like questioning my life and going through depression and emotional anxiety, the shit that we go through when we're like, I don't know what to do. Thank you for that, because now we are, when we talk about church, talk about saving souls, that's saving a soul. Because people come out here, we go to the pride parades, we do all these different things, but people go back to their rooms, and they're falling apart because they want something more that the world can't give them. So to help someone step-by-step process, and I'm not trying to, my program is spiritually inclusive. So whether you're a Christian, Muslim, Jehovah, whatever your background is, if you've had the commonality of receiving a non-loving message about God, you are welcome, and you're wanting to restore that. But a part of that, I help folks, lead them to like, what is the voice of God? I'm not trying to show you to another book or, this, no. We're sitting in meditation. We're sitting with ourselves. You're posing questions to yourself.
What up? It's your host, Ashley, and I'm interrupting this podcast to ask, are you following us? Have you downloaded the podcast? Are you subscribed to us on YouTube? If you're not already, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on all platforms, Queerly Black. I'm going to let y'all get back to the show. Peace.
And you're like, man, I was in my car and I heard this song. You think that you just heard that song that talked about your freedom. That was God talking to you in that very moment. You went to down, like I've been places where, when I'm working and I'm traveling, I seen like a mural that said God loves all. God took me from Charlotte, North Carolina to Lincoln, Nebraska, just to tell me that. So back to your point, what you're saying, like sometimes we just think, oh, coincidence. No, is the synchronicity of it. It's God speaking to you. So I'd be like, I've worked with a trans man, and just like, okay, I've been able to step into who I am. And now he's doing greater work. He's now going out there helping other trans men reconcile their spirituality. So when we talk about, okay, the work of what Jesus is doing, Buddha, whatever that looks like for us, they were is not saying that the door is not necessarily me, it's helping point people to the kingdom within, helping them understand that God is within. So I think when I talk about purpose, I truly believe we all have a purpose. We're here for a reason. And us as a queer folks, like if we're struggling with we're struggling with our identity. I don't know if I should transition, or if has God really approved of that, or I don't know whether to pick a man or woman or whatever, all these different things. Guess what? You're not in alignment with your purpose. You're not doing the good work that God has called you to do. You're not being a creator. You're not podcasting. You're not doing the things that God wants you to do. So until you do that, so that's what it's about, is to help people be who God created them to be.
I appreciate that. I appreciate this conversation a whole lot. I got two more questions for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
First one is, if you had a theme song for your life, what would it be?
It just dropped in me, but this was actually my favorite song. I sing it karaoke all the time. Tevin Campbell, Can We Talk?
Oh, that's
I think that I'll do a little different spin on it, but Can We Talk to me was a confidence song, but Can We Talk is what the world needs right now. Like us here, can we talk about this? The conversation and helping people understand themselves, and the work that I do in helping folks. Can we talk about this? Can we take the stuff out the closet? can you come out the closet? Can we lay it, bear it on the altar and say, can we talk about this? So I would just say, Tevin Campbell, can we talk?
I love it. I love that song. That's just a classic.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you had advice for people going through their own queer journey, what would it be?
I just go back to purpose, man. I think that's the core thing that helps us get through any challenge in our life, whether if it's our queer journey, illness, this pandemic, all type of different things in life. That's going to be the things I would say, get with yourself and say, what is my purpose? What is my existence? Why am I here? Once you know that, then you're like, I got to live into that. And that's why, because so many people are filled with suicidal ideation, depression, all type of different things, and they're questioning your life, and you're like, okay, what do I do? When you get a hold of that purpose thing, that's going to give you the strength to say, you know what? God is going to do some miraculous things with me because I'm queer, because I'm trans, because I'm Black, queer, and trans, whatever that looks like for us. God can't move. God can't impact the world if they don't have you as a vessel to do it. So I would just tell people, anchor down, connect to your purpose, your why you get up in the morning. That'll help you get you through the hardest times of your life.
Absolutely. No, I love that. Thank you so much for coming through, man. Tell the people where they can find you.
anytime. It's been a joy. Everyone can find me Queer on Purpose. I'm mostly on Instagram, but Queer on Purpose. If you want to email me, info@queeronpurpose.com. And we'll connect.
Awesome.
So you can find me.
Oh man, thank you so much for coming through. This was a great conversation. I truly enjoyed it.
Yes.
Y'all make sure y'all follow Queerly Black on Instagram, subscribe to the YouTube channel, download the podcast, all podcast platforms. And y'all already know, man, it's another episode of the Queerly Blax Show. I'm your host, Ashley. I'll catch y'all on the next one.